Hello everyone, welcome once again to another tutorial of data analytics by Slidescope. In this part, we are learning about electrical energy consumption analysis on the data set. We will create electrical energy consumption dashboard in Power BI. In this dashboard, you can see we have filters like building type. On the basis of building type, we will be able to analyze energy consumption by day of week, energy consumption by type of building, whether it's residential, industrial, or commercial building, number of occupants living in the house versus energy consumption, if the average temperature increases or decreases, what is the effect of that on total energy consumption, if the house has number of appliances, more number of appliances, will the average consumption increase or decrease. We will use trend analysis to see the trend here on a square footage versus energy consumption, and all of this will be taught on a very simple to understand data set. So let's get started by understanding the data set first. So here is the electrical energy consumption data set. This data set provides insights into energy consumption patterns based on various building characteristics and environmental factors, and it includes data for different building types also. Dataset link and everything is provided here. This dataset is basically provided in two files. So whenever you are building a machine learning model, you split the dataset into two parts. One is the test data and one is the training data. So first we have the test, this is the training data, like the number of samples that will be used to train the model, and then we also have the test energy. It will have the same columns, and this will be used to test the model. But since we are doing analysis in Power BI, there are various ways of combining this data and forming a complete data set from the given values. So first of all, we will get the data because the file, both files are CSV files. So we will simply test the data, and here energy consumption. So we will first add train dataset, and after going to train dataset, we will transform the data. Okay, and this is transform. Now we will choose new data source, that will be text file, and here we are going to choose the test one. So now we have both training and testing. They both have the same columns: building type, the square feet area of the house, number of occupants, appliances used, average temperature, day of week, and energy consumption. So we will simply load them. Now we will select one of these tables and go to append queries and use append as new. So in merge, basically merge is just like a SQL join. Like you merge two or three different tables and create a bigger table. And merging is basically something that is done horizontally, like you are adding more columns to your data set. But if you want to add more rows to your data set, like here you can see in the training file and the testing file, both files have some samples. So what we want to do, we want to merge these samples and create a final big data set, right? So this particular chapter will also help you in learning a practical usage of append queries. Here we have second table. So first we will select train, second we will select as this, and now we will have a merge query. Okay, so this merge query data set will have all the columns. So for example, here we have 101 columns in the test file. In the training file we have 1001 columns. Okay, so now we have append data, and here we will simply rename it to energy data. Now, after renaming, we will do one more thing. For every record, we will add a column. This column is a calculated column, and it will be an index column. It will start from 1. Okay. Now you can reposition your index column anywhere. I'm just repositioning it to front. So this is index, like for every record we have one unique ID. It's like a primary key kind of thing that we are building here. Now after all of this, we have to simply go to Home tab, close and apply. Now after loading the data set, we have these three files. If we want, we can delete them also. The only file that we want to analyze is energy data. So first, as we always do, we try to create a dashboard title, and this is electrical energy consumption analysis dashboard. Obviously this tutorial will be a little bit slow, so you can you know uh, start you can play the video in 1.25 speed, so it will be better for you and more engaging. So here first of all we are going to select this. Obviously this is for beginners who just want to understand everything from scratch. So here first we will center this, then use it like this and make it bold, and choose a font size that is somewhere around 28. Okay, so this is what we have done in previous examples also. And here in your case you can use a different color for this. So for example we are selecting a color from this palette. So this is the color that we are going to use. This same color that we have selected we will use in our visual border also. So we will just enable the visual border and enable a shadow. In shadow, color is something that you can choose as per your theme. So this will enable a simple shadow for us. And in our visual border, if you like it, like this, you can keep it as it is. Otherwise, you can go and enable a, so in your effect, you can, in your visual border, you can enable a radius also. Okay, if you will disable the visual border, then it will start looking like this, which is also a good way to start your project. Now this is something that you can do as per your own liking, and what I have done here is I have simply given some description here. So I will provide a link to this sheet also. Some sheets we will create, uh, some particular visuals are there which we will put, and if you want to add more visuals, I will share a link to this particular article also. So first we have to do energy consumption by building type. So to do electrical consumption by building type, you can see building type has commercial, industrial and residential values. Okay, whenever you have a categorical data like this, what you can do, you can simply select this, and for energy consumption you already have the energy consumption value. So you will group the data by residential and industrial values and commercial, industries and residential, and you can create a simple chart here. For this we will use a donut chart. In donut chart we will simply arrange our donut chart here, and here the first thing that in legend you always bring a categorical variable, that is building type here. So we have three types of building: commercial, industrial and residential. Okay, and in our building type, in values we will bring total energy consumption, like what is the total electrical energy consumption for them, and you can see the value, like here you can see 387, 351 and all. So it is showing us count of energy consumption. We will do sum. So in sum you can see 1.6 million, 1.43 million and so on. So this is important. Let's say we want to reposition the legend here. We will simply go to legend part. So this is the format your visual part where we will select bottom center. So in bottom center you can see your legend will come here, and you will have your data is like that. Okay, so let me reposition this properly. So this is one thing, I have just repositioned this so that everything is readable properly. Data labels are on. We can adjust the size of data labels. So I will just enable it to 10 pixel, make it bold so that it is readable, and use this font here. This is the title. Title is automatically created, sum of energy consumption by building type. This is automatically created. So if you will simply rename, like instead of sum of, we'll say total energy consumption and hit enter. So it will be like this: total energy consumption by building type. Title is barely visible, so you come again to format your visible, and here you go to title, and in title you just use a bold font and use a color of your choice. So this is now our total energy consumption by building type. We will click on this, use format painter to copy the style here also. Obviously there we have to use title once again. So just make it bold. We could have done this later. So this is our total energy consumption by building type. What we can do once, one more thing is, obviously right now it is edge, shape is like a edge. If you want to use a round shape, so you can go to general, effect, in your visual border turn on, but use a white color. Okay, so when you will do that, it will be like a rounded corner. Whatever you prefer, you can use that. Okay, so this is total energy consumption by building. We will copy this, and obviously once we have enabled the round shape, title is in 2 lines, so we will just enable it in 1 line. All your categorical values like day of week. Okay, so in day of week it is either weekday or weekend. So this is also something that can be easily represented in form of a donut chart or a pie chart. So instead of building type, what we will bring here is day of week, total energy consumption by day of week. So you can see, let's zoom in. So in weekend and weekdays, it is almost 50-50%, slightly higher in case of weekdays. So we cannot say totally that any particular type of value is more than the other value. But what you have to understand from this is an interesting thing, that weekdays are actually 4 days or 5 days, right? So you can see all of weekdays combined are 50%, 50.28%, and only weekends are 49%. Okay, now this is an interesting thing that will be that when we will use the type of electrical load. Okay, so for example, if building type is residential, what is this consumption going to look like? So we can use it here. So here you can see when the building type is residential, so you can see that it is 14 and 16 ratio. Okay, so and obviously this is not looking good to us, like obviously readability is not better here. So we will use uh, this value, which is building type, that is type of electrical load, as a slicer. To create your slicers, you can create to or a filter, you can use a slicer. You will bring the slicer here, and we will simply reposition it so that it fits our header. Okay, we'll just you know put some spaces there. in our slicer, the field that we are going to build, bring is building type, and because there are three types of buildings, so we can use as a button. Okay, if you want, you can show as a drop down value also. So for example, in slicer setting, so just click your slicer, go to format your visual, and from here go to slicer setting and click drop down. So you, for example, now in individual or in industrial cases, you can see the ratio is 51:48. In residential, the ratio is 52 to 47 for weekend and weekday. Okay, that means slightly higher. In commercial, it is almost this. Obviously, this is some kind of fabricated data, but in real data set, you will see that in weekdays and weekends for residential load, you will definitely see a difference. So what we can do here is, in general, obviously we will go to visual, and in visual first we will disable the header, enable the title. Okay, copy the styling, so copy format printer here and apply it here, so that we our slicer is visible properly. Here again in our slicer, enable a title. Okay, title is nothing but building type, so this is building type. Title should be in center as other values are there. Okay, or we can reduce the size of this title so that it fits the slicer area properly. Okay, 11. And in our visual, in our values, we will just enable a background, a very light color of the theme that we are using. This is not the light color. Let's select more. Uh, okay, so this is building type. Currently commercial is selected, and we can make these values bold also. So we'll select and make these values bold, and the font color as the theme font color. So why are they not bold? Let me check. Values bold. Now they are bold and visible properly. Obviously, when you will select one of them, this will become one graph. But this way, you can analyze other values. I am just showing you example of using one slicer. You can use any number of slicers or filters here to visualize your data. Now I am just giving you an option here. This is not necessary, but one of the students asked this. So here, if you will select this and go to properties, in properties in effects, you will have the background. So transparency is 0% for this particular element. Let's say I enable 75% transparency or 25% transparency. Okay. Same to this and other visuals also. So every time in effect you will find this thing, and we will enable a 25% transparency. Obviously at this moment, because the background is plain, so we will not be able to see anything. Okay, but what if we bring a image in the background? So we have this image. You can use any other image. So this image I got from Pixabay. So I will simply use this image in the background and see if it looks good. Otherwise we will remove it. And this is just one option to make your visuals, make your dashboards more interesting and more relevant. So we have the image here. In style, let's select fill. So first we will enable something like this, and there are two options, either fit or fill. We will use fill, and in drill format we will send to backward because it is over everything. So send to backward. So when we enable, you see, when we enabled some transparency, right? So in case of transparency, we can see a little of the background, we can see the transmission line, and over that we can see our visuals. So this is something that I'm going to do when we'll prepare the dashboard, because this is going to mess up with these visual at the time of creation of it. So I'm just going to do it in the last. So now we have the consumption values. Next up, we have two numerical variables, energy consumption and square footage. So when you have two numerical variables like energy consumption and square footage in this case, so what you can do is, in such cases you can build a scatter plot. A scatter plot is used to find out relationship between two numerical variables. That means if you will increase one of them, what will be the effect of that increase on the other variable. Okay, so here in x-axis and y-axis we are going to compare or see relationship between energy consumption and square footage. That means if the square footage of the house increases, will that affect energy consumption also? So usually they will have a direct relationship. When square footage will increase, energy consumption will increase, because there will be more electrical load, there will be more fans, there will be more televisions, more electrical appliances. So here in x-axis we will put a square footage, because square footage is the independent variable here. In y-axis we will bring energy consumption. Okay, so just drag energy consumption and you can see we have a linear relationship. Okay, these all dots that we are seeing are all the scatter points. If you will just zoom it, you will be able to see, but they are so close to each other that it is just looking like one bar kind of thing. Even you can use a line chart or an area chart to show this also, but the best way to represent this is a scatter plot. Now first of all, let's copy the style so that everything looks proper. So sum of square footage by energy consumption. So we will not see use sum of, but we will simply use square footage, and let's go to the title, not by, we will write versus. Okay, square footage versus, and align the title in center. This is square footage versus energy consumption, and we can see there is a direct relationship. That means this simply means when a square foot increases, like for example, let's consider any random value. So here a square foot value is 12,615 square foot of area, and energy consumption is 3872.54. Okay, if you will increase this, so you can see as we are increasing the square footage size, then energy consumption is also increasing. If you want to see for different type of loads, for example commercial loads, industrial loads and residential loads, you will see the difference. Okay, you can see in residential loads that are given here, the energy consumption starts from a higher point, like in this case it starts from around 1683. Okay, in case of industrial it starts from a lower value, in commercial also a lower value. So on the basis of these three cases, you will be able to visualize the relationship or effect of uh, effect of building type, effect of day of week, and effect of square footage on your energy consumption. Whenever we are doing such kind of analysis, so we always assume one variable as our output variable or the you know target variable. So in this case the target variable will be this, our energy consumption, and all these factors, these these type of values, all these factors will be our input values, like they are the features, they are those properties that are affecting energy consumption. So let's color them in a different way to understand. So this way, when you are building a dashboard, you can try to create graphs between, you know, select one of them and G square foot and G. But the problem is, what type of value is it? If it is a categorical value, a nominational variable, so then that preferred graphs will be bar and pi and donut. Okay, these type of graphs can be preferred when both of them are continuously numerical values. Like a square foot is also a continuous numerical value, and this is also continuous. So in such cases, you can choose the scatter plot. So this is a simple thing that you can do. And now since we have got that, let's proceed further. So that's what we have done. And the purpose is to identify correlation between building size and its energy usage. There is one more thing that you can enable here. So click on this graph and go to add further analysis to your visible and enable the trend line. When you will enable the trend line, it will show, obviously the purpose of trend line is to check when we increase values of x-axis, will it increase the value of y-axis, and the slope of this trend line tells us, you know, the kind of intensity of that increment. So if the trend line is if the trend line is at greater angle than this, that means that when we increase x-axis, there is more increase on the y-axis. And similarly, you can see for different cases, this trend line will also be different. Later, we can also find out the equation of this line. The equation of this line is usually in this format: y is equal to mx plus c, obviously equation of line, where y will be our output, that is energy consumption, and x will be our input, that is square footage in this case, right? C is intercept of line. Intercept means where this line will touch the y-axis. That is the minimum energy consumption when x is 0, right? And m is the slope of line. So this we will also calculate later. And we have done a separate video for linear regression where we have shown how to calculate that. So you can refer to that video also if you want to do it for this project also. Now next important thing will be to visualize average energy consumption by day of week. Okay, here also we can use line chart or column chart. So that we have already done. So total energy consumption by day of week we have done. This is total. If you simply want to change it to average value, so you can also make it average. Okay, so you can see on an average, uh, on weekends, what is the energy consumption? That is 4152 units. Okay, and for weekday is 4184. So almost pretty much close to each other. And having it as an average will be more meaningful for our analysis. And we will simply go to title and simply write average. It is your choice, whatever you want to keep here. For our next analysis, we will consider number of occupants. Okay, it's a residential building with number of occupants 76. It may be an apartment or something, because obviously this will not be a single house. So here for 76 people, for a square foot area of 7063 square feet, the total energy consumption is 2713. This is one case, right? And average temperature is this. We will also see the effect of average temperature on energy consumption. Like when the temperature is high, people will turn on AC. When temperature is low, people will turn on, heater. So at normal temperatures what is the consumption. So that will also be interesting thing to analyze. And so here we will use number of occupants versus energy consumption. And obviously the best type of graph to analyze that will also be the same, like uh, here we had square footage as x-axis and energy consumption as y-axis. There we will simply have number of occupants. Okay, so this will be number of occupants, sum of number of occupants you can see for different houses, and based on that almost the same kind of trend, which indicates that by increase in number of occupants the energy consumption also increases, although not as steep as this graph, but still in a positive linear direction. And here we have hashtag occupants, kind of tells that. Yes, to make it a little bit more interesting we can go here and in our markers we can use a different type like diamond shapes and style. Let's try to decrease the size further so that we can see each dots clearly, and let's use a different color. Okay, when you have used a different color then your trend line will not be visible. So for trend line we will use a light shade color so that it is visible. So this is occupants versus energy consumption. So in the similar way we have copied this chart here, and here we have brought average of average temperature. So this is basically the average temperature versus this. Now in average temperature we can see a little bit of downward trend. Obviously here also we can enable the trend line to see the data properly, and trend line color as a light color so that we can see it is almost parallel, but here you can see a little bit of downward trend, which kind of indicates when the average temperature is increasing to around 35. So first of all the values are between 10 to 35 here. So when the average temperature is increasing there is a slight downfall in energy consumption. So energy consumption is reducing a little bit. So this is something that you can see from this. In our markers obviously we can use a different type of color for this. Let's say we will select this color, or somewhere we have used the orange color, so we will use that. Whatever color choice you have, obviously color choice totally depends upon what value you want to show. So this is average temperature versus energy consumption, and we can see almost parallel to x-axis but slightly going down. Next we have appliances used. So in appliances used we have values from 1 to 50. Obviously the whole purpose of this is to learn new things, right? So for example if we go to appliances used, right, just click on these three dots, we will create a group here. Okay, so in Power BI you can create a group on the basis of different conditions. So we are going to create bins. You can see in number of appliances used the minimum value is 1 and maximum is 49. We will suppose we want to create 10 bins, okay, or 8 bins. So we will create 8 bins. That means this will group the data in 8 bins. So let's say it is 50, so every bin size will be around 5. Okay, so first we have created the bins. So you will see here the bin appliances use bin 8, 16, 32. This type of value will be there. 8, then 16, then 32, then 40, 48, something like that. Okay, So now since we have those type of bins, we will simply bring a stacked column chart here, and in this stacked column chart we will put the bin on the x-axis. So bin will this is appliance use bin. This icon indicates a group. Okay, so appliances used bins and the energy consumption. So you can see in different bin sizes. For example, in the first bin sizes, appliances used is 0 to 8. The count of energy consumption, like count of records, is 133. Here we will not use count of records, but we will use average value. Okay, so you can see here the average of energy consumption here is 3695 when number of appliances used are from 0 to 8. When number of appliances used are between 8, here like this is up to 10. So this is the bin size 10 here. So this is 3864.21. We are seeing 0 there because we can see in appliances used with there are still many cases with 0. So now the bin created is first bin is 0, second is 8, then 16. So we have to consider like this. So this is 0 bin, 8 appliances, 16 appliances, 24 appliances, 32, 40 and 48, right? So we have just grouped the data. Now many people will ask like why have we grouped the data? Let's say we try to create a graph without grouping the data. So let's say we have a same chart here. So here if we use the ungrouped column, so there will be 50 bars. Okay, and in obviously you will get some indication like this. There will be 50 bars in this case. What we have done is we have just grouped these bars together, and on the basis of that we have created 6 groups here. Okay, so this is the example. In the 50th group, the average energy consumption is 4420. So what can we get from here is obviously here it may be some different situation, uh, like very less number of cases where the appliances used are 48, but when the number of appliances are increasing, we can say that the energy consumption is also increasing. So this is something that it is telling us, and obviously we can simply assign the same formatting to this also. And here we will use the same color. So in columns, the color that I am going to use is the same color that we have used, the blue theme color. In fact, here also I will just change it to something else. So this is average of energy consumption by appliances used bins. Obviously title is very long, we will prefer a shorter. So we will simply write average consumption. Obviously this is energy data. So average consumption by appliances used. And this is the simple output. So here we learned how to create groups on the basis of different conditions in the data. So now we have total consumption by building type. We also have total consumption by day of week. What if we want to see average consumption by building type and day of week both? So let's see a clustered column chart here. In our clustered column chart, on x-axis we will bring building type because there are 3 types of buildings, and on y-axis we will bring energy consumption and average energy consumption. So first of all we'll get an indication that in industrial loads, which is correct also, that the average energy consumption is 4716.35 units. In commercial it is 41252, and in residential it is uh, 3.6 units, or 3685 watts we can say. Here when we are just using this, first of all we'll copy the styling so that we don't have to style it again and again. Okay, color is something that we can choose. I preferred that color, or we can choose three different colors also, but that we'll do later. Here the next thing that I will do in legend, I will also bring day of week. So you can view them separately also. If you want to combine them, then in a clustered or a stack chart, you can combine them as well. So here we will simply bring day of week to legend, and this way we will have a chart like this. Okay, and you can see day of week is either weekday or weekend. What we can do simply in general, our legend position, if you don't want you can turn it off, because it is self-explanatory, but if you want you can bring it to bottom center, so weekday and weekend are clearly visible here. So we can see in week, as we saw earlier also, in weekend in industrial loads average energy consumption is low. In commercial it is almost similar, but in case of residential also it is low by at, at least 100 watts we can say, yeah, approximately 100 watts per on an average. This is average of energy consumption by building type and day of week, which is an interesting analysis for us. Next, in our data table we have average temperature. The minimum temperature value that is there in the data set is 10.05, and the maximum value is around 34.6. Okay, we can say 24. So I'm simply going to divide this temperature also in three parts. So earlier we divided one numerical column and we used bins which were like this. The name of bins were also numbers itself. Okay, obviously here if you want to show detailed labels, so you can enable the data label and show the values also. But here in case of average temperature, the group that we are going to create, this group will not be a bin type of group. Okay, this will be a list type of group, so it will be actually a group. And what we are going to do, one thing we can do, we can select the values from 10 to let's say 18. Okay, just showing you one example, 10 to 18.3 let's say, and we will simply add them to group. So all the values from 10 to 18 are in one group, and we will simply rename this group as cool, just giving a cool temperature. And then values from 18 to 24, obviously we can do it with the help of DAX also. I have shown that in many previous examples, but we can do it here also. So but here we can do it without DAX query, just showing you example. Obviously it will take some time, so you can skip a little bit. So let's say 24.3 here. Okay, we will add this in another group, or 26 we have to take, because we are dividing them in 8, 8 and 8. So let's say 26.3. So we will add them to other group, and we will call it, just for sake of understanding, moderate temperature. Okay, so we have cool, moderate, and let's say all other values that are there. So all other values contains all ungrouped value. So if you will leave that, then also it will be nice. Otherwise you can group them, and we will call them warm. Okay, obviously there is not going to be any other value, but let's leave it. So we'll simply click OK. This will create another temperature wise data for us. Now we can see how many, what is the average energy consumption by different temperatures in that manner also. So for that we can select a stacked column chart, and in the stacked column chart we can simply uh, bring on x-axis our average temperature group, and on y-axis we are going to bring average energy consumption. So average energy consumption. So you can see in case of cool temperatures it is slightly higher, then warm, and then moderate. So if the temperature is cool or warm, then energy consumption is higher. But in case of moderate temperature, that is between, I will say, 18 to 26, average consumption is lower. So and a difference is of 100 watts in between them as per the units we can say. And again we are simply going to apply the style as we applied here. So this way, by creating this type of groups, obviously when you have a numerical data, so you can convert them into different type of groups, and that becomes easier for people to visualize, right? So this is another example of it. And this is also a great way of converting your numerical values into categorical values. So that kind of concludes our first part of this analysis. This is our energy consumption EDA dashboard or exploratory data analysis. And as we said, we can now include the background image and see how it looks. We are just filling this image. Obviously, if it will not look nice, we will remove it. And here in format, we will send backward. Send to back. So we have simply placed the image in the background, and this is our electrical energy consumption analysis dashboard. Suppose we want to increase the visibility of these charts a little bit, so you can go to effect, and instead of transparency 25%, you can use something like 20%, or you can try reducing it to whatever value you feel is comfortable, for example 15%. So that is your case. So this will uh, enable the visual in the background and as well as your chart. So it's your choice, whatever you prefer. This is a very simple analysis dashboard. I hope you liked this tutorial, you understood the concept. In the next part we will learn how to use Python to create some charts and apply linear regression. So for example, if we consider energy consumption, we consider average temperature, let's say we consider them. So we import matplotlib.py plot as plt. If you are interested in that, then only. Uh, and we will write dataset dataset.plot kind is equal to bar. I am just giving one example. Obviously, this is not the best kind of plot. And plt.show. So when you will run something like this, a chart, if the code is right, the chart will appear here. So you can see. So on the basis of this also, you can create the same type of charts. So this will require Python pandas. This will be taught in the next chapter. Thanks for watching this chapter. Please try this at your own end. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section below.